Mhm. The idea is that we are breaking God up into little tiny pieces that are stretched out over a timeline. God is only one place, right here, right now. And the miracle is only one place, right here, right now. And all that we think is happening is just the right here, right now being stretched out into an almost infinite line of illusion. And that's the important thing. It is an illusion. God only happens right here, right now. If we think that it is happening other places than right here, right now, that is the illusion. That is the dream that the ego wants us to believe, that we don't have access to the miracle right here, right now. We have to wait for it to happen. We have to, or that it happened 50 years ago and I missed it, doggone it.
Well, it happens when I get out of the way.
Right. Well, when the ego gets out of the way, then all of a sudden time, boom, comes right back to here, right there, right now. When the ego gets out of the way, when there is no need for God to be happening over a long stretch of time, it's like a rubber band snapping right back into its original relaxed state, right here, right now. It takes a lot of effort to make time happen over a long period of time. It takes an exhausting amount of effort. And if we just relax and let time, the illusion of time, disappear and let God be what God is, all of a sudden it's very easy to relax into it.
Would you say let time dissolve?
Relax. Let time relax and stop trying to stretch it out into this.
So in actual fact, we shouldn't be reading all this book and trying to figure things out and get it.
Well, we need this book to help us relax the rubber band. That's what the purpose of this book is, to help us release the idea that time and space and God and miracles and everything happen over a extended period of.
No, it's right now.
It is right here, right now. And it's just releasing the rubber band, that's all. Letting it fall back to its relaxed state. The ego only works in tension. The ego only works in the idea that there has to be something, some chaos, some physics to keep everything from happening all at once. And as
so
soon
if
as
I can let it go and just let it go and allow, the thing I was looking for appears in front of me.
Bingo, because it is there already. It already is.
Okay.
Time is our way of keeping God from happening all at once in our own perception. Hi, Mary. Good morning.
Hey,
How you doing?
Baraka. Hi,
What's up?
Hi, guys. I have to underline something you said.
Please.
I love it. The ego only works in tension. That's so good. The rubber band, it being tense. Well, now I just thought of intention. I didn't mean that. I meant in, like what you said, in tension.
In tension, right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's interesting though, the other two. But yeah, that's a really good one because it is so true. This is true. Yeah.
Well, whenever I come to a spot where I'm going, what am I going to do about this? Oh, look at the tension that comes to me when that happens. When I just say, let go and let God. Let go of the go of the rubber band.
Yeah.
Let go and let God.
I love that.
Thank you.
It's a good reason to wear a rubber band on my wrist again.
There you go. Snap it. Yes.
Yeah.
But make sure that when it's relaxed, it's not cutting off your circulation.
No,
because
big enough. Sure.
That's another problem.
Right.
We carry around this rubber band and we think we're relaxed, but it still is cutting off the circulation of the miracle, of God's will. Relax enough that God's will flows freely and comes to us freely. And right here, right now is the only place where that happens. Not trying to journey into the future or haul something up from the past. All of those things take far too much effort. They're just exhausting. So, who are the teachers of God's pupils? Who are they? Well, I just happen to have a couple of paragraphs right here that answer that. And so I'd like to explore those right now, if that's okay with everyone, so we can give it a try. Who wants to take paragraph number 1? Okay, go ahead, Mary.
So it's section 2.
Section 2. Yes.
Who are their pupils?
Yes.
And paragraph 1.
Okay.
Certain pupils have been assigned to each of God's teachers, and they will begin to look for him as soon as he has answered the call.
Okay, now the call, capital C call, that's Holy Spirit. Remember, whenever you see the word call in capitals, that's Holy Spirit.
Okay. They were chosen for him because the form of the universal curriculum that he will teach is best for them in view of their level of understanding. His pupils have been waiting for him, for his coming is certain. Again, it is only a matter of time. Once he has chosen to fulfill his role, they are ready to fulfill theirs. Time waits on his choice, but not on whom he will serve. When he is ready to learn, the opportunities to teach will be provided for him. And we're saying hello to Judy. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Judy.
And hi, Brenda. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Virginia.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. I just got here too, Judy.
Welcome, mighty companions. So
I have a problem and a question with this, because you just said there's no such thing as time, and now it says time waits on his choice.
Right. Time
This is where I get confused.
Okay, time in our idea, in our assumption of how the universe works. Not time in God's will, time in the ego's way.
Okay.
Okay. The ego needs time. And the ego uses time to make us think we have to wait for something to happen. And so in the ego's version of this, of reality, which is not reality at all, but in the ego's version, something else has to happen first. And so the way that what this is saying is that what happens first is the teacher answers the call. And as soon as the teacher answers the call, the pupils that will be assigned to that teacher will start looking for that teacher. But that is the way that the call has made things arranged for. That it is the idea that something must happen before something else.
So if we're here, does that mean we've answered the call? I think so.
Yes, that is I think in my idea of it possible, but it is up to every teacher to acknowledge that themselves, and then to be able to make themselves available to whatever pupils have been assigned to them.
Okay.
So this is where the storefront comes into play. By setting up the storefront in whatever form we want to make it happen, a t-shirt, a storefront in a mall, however we want to be it, that way that we set it up is our signaling that the pupils that have been assigned to us can come. Doors are open. We're open for business. Show up. Come on, bring it on. So if the teacher is not willing to be that, to be ready for the pupils to show up, it's not going to happen, because the teacher has to admit to themselves that their interests are the same as someone else's. And it's funny that's how the last paragraph, the last section began, it's also how this section ends, as we will see, that the teacher and pupil both come to the idea that there is something that they have in common with someone else. And by admitting that and accepting that, that is how the teacher-pupil relationship begins. When we get done with this, I'm going to tell a little story about how my teacher was brought to me and how I came to my teachers as a pupil, because it's quite a miraculous thing. So, but we're going to finish this reading first. All right. So, who wants to read paragraph number 2?
Well, I'm ready.
Oh, good. Please do.
In order to understand the teaching learning plan of salvation, it is necessary to grasp the concept of time that the course sets forth. Atonement corrects illusions, not truth. Therefore, it corrects what never was. This is where I get confused. Further, the plan for this correction was established and completed simultaneously, for the will of God is entirely apart from time. Okay. So is all reality being of him. The instant the idea of separation entered the mind of God's Son, in that same instant was God's answer given. In time, this happened very long ago. In reality, it never happened at all.
All right. Well, okay. So let's go back to that first sentence. Therefore, it corrects what never was. All right. In reality, the separation never happened, because as soon as the very instant that the thought came to us that we wanted to be somehow separate from God, God's correction came in the form of Holy Spirit, stepped into that illusion and said, no, that's not how this works. You are my perfectly created child of God. You are always with me, and I am always with you. Always. Unconditional. So therefore, what we think is happening right now is happening in that little tiny sliver, infinitesimal sliver between us thinking that we could somehow be separate from God and God saying, no way, dude. I am with you right here, right now. You go play your little game, do whatever you want, tell your joke, forget to laugh, all that stuff. But in truth, you never left. Because I'm God. Where else are you going to go? Where is there to go in reality? Okay. All right. So now, so it's all reality being of him. The instant the idea of separation entered the mind of God's Son, in that same instant was God's answer given. Okay. The same instant. Boom. No separation between the choice that we make and the solution that God offered. In time, this happened very long ago. In reality, it never happened at all. That means we can think that there is this long period of time ago where, Adam, or whoever we wanted to tell the myth, decided to be separate from God, and somehow way, way, way in the future, we are reunited with God, whatever distance of time that may be. In truth, no distance. Right here, right now. This is where salvation happens. It's happening right here, right now, in the timeline of God. Because in the timeline of God, there is no time. Does that remove a couple of question marks for you, Carolyn?
That's better.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Number 3. Who wants number 3? Okay, go ahead, Judy. Thank you.
Thank you. Time really then goes backward to an
Whoop.
instance so.
Whoops.
The world of time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
there we go.
The world of time is the world of illusion. What happened long ago seems to be happening now. Choices made long since appear to be open, yet to be made. What has been learned and understood and long ago passed by is looked upon as a new thought, a fresh idea, a new approach. Because your will is free, you can accept what has already happened at any time you choose, and only then will you realize that it was always there. As the course emphasizes, you are not free to choose the curriculum or even the form in which you will learn it. You are free, however, to decide when you want to learn it. And as you accept it, it is already learned.
Judy, what is that saying to you in other words?
The moment I wish to acknowledge my holiness and the world of illusion, it disappears. Nothing is but love. And in the meantime, as long as I'm in the third dimension, I will radiate that love.
Right. Until there's nothing else left but that love.
There might be a mammal around who still needs a little of my love.
That's okay.
But
We can
as
pet
soon as
kitty
I'm
cats
ready,
out. Right. We
I'm
can
outta
pet
here.
kitty cats as long as we want, but eventually we're going to have to remember that the kitty cat and I are one in love. Right, kitty cat?
Yeah, we're heading home.
The kitty cat's right. There's the kitty cat right there. There.
Aww,
Well,
feline love.
we have a puppy, and I mean a puppy visiting right now who does not understand territories. And so,
Oh, no.
so Oreo is here, and I've got the door closed, and Oreo is safe in Baraka heaven. Any other thoughts about that paragraph? Okay. Paragraph number 4. Go ahead, someone.
Time really then goes
I can-
backward to an instant so ancient that it is beyond all memory and past even the possibility of remembering. Yet because it is an instant that is relived again and again, and still again, it seems to be now. And thus it is that pupil and teacher seem to come together in the present, finding each other as if they had not met before. The pupil comes at the right time to the right place. This is inevitable because he made the right choice in that ancient instant, which he now relives. So has the teacher too made an inevitable choice out of an ancient past. God's will in everything, but seems to take time in the working out. What could delay the power of eternity?
I know what could delay the power of eternity, the ego. But
Ah,
only in the dream, only in the illusion. The power of eternity is itself outside of the illusion. So therefore it happens, it has already happened. There's no clock on, there's no hands on some clock that needs to go around a certain number of times for this to take place. We are alive in God's love right now. And we are now the possibility, we represent the possibility of coming to the awareness of that. Hi, Linda, good morning to you.
hi, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
So there is no hands of a clock that needs to turn around any number of times for love to be present all the time. In
Ego energy is like putting you into that dream at night that you think is so real.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Unfortunately, also waking up from that dream still keeps us in this
It's
dream.
another
right here.
layer of dream.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be. That's the thing about it. We keep maintaining the idea of this dream, of this illusion, to keep the ego safe, to keep the rubber band stretched to tension. We are now complicit in the ego's idea of what it means to be real. But as soon as we are willing to let go of that rubber band and let it relax back to its normal state, but still holding on to it as the reality of who we are, not the stretched out reality of what the ego thinks, but letting it go and relaxing to who we are as God created us, then we no longer have to worry about maintaining that dream, keeping the clock hands going around on some imaginary clock in some imaginary time. We are finished with that by letting the rubber band come back to the relaxed state. So let's see. I'll read the last paragraph. When pupil and teacher come together, a teaching learning situation begins. For the teacher is not really the one who does the teaching. God's teacher, capital GT, Holy Spirit, speaks to any two who join together for the learning purpose. Whenever two or more are gathered together in God's name, there is love. The relationship is holy because of that purpose, and God has promised to send his Spirit into any holy relationship. There it is right there. That is the promise of God's love. In the teaching learning situation, each one learns that giving and receiving are the same. So therefore, there is no difference between the teacher and the pupil once that relationship has been established. We are one and the same as teacher and pupil in God's love. There is no space between those two. There is no space within love. It is all right here, right now. And the more effectively we can admit the relationship between teacher and pupil being one and the same, the easier the learning happens on both sides of the line. In fact, the easier it becomes easier it becomes to admit the fact that there is no line to be on opposite sides of. Everything is right here, right now. The demarcations they have drawn between their roles, their minds, their bodies, their needs, their interests, and all the differences they thought separated them from one another fade and grow dim and disappear. Those who would learn the same course share one interest and one goal. And thus, he who was the learner becomes a teacher of God himself. For he has made the one decision that gave his teacher to him. He has seen in another person the same interests as his own. Here we go from the beginning of the last section, first page, first sentence to the sentence here, coming around to the very same point. We are one in the same as teacher and pupil.
Right.
But the only way that that is going to work is if, as teacher, we open the door and welcome in. The only way we can work as pupil and make that work is to enjoy the idea of the love that comes from the teacher. And you may have heard, especially when I'm with Vicki, you may have heard me refer to a friend by the name of David Farwell. Well, I got to go back a little bit. When I was living on the island in Maine, I had the idea of writing an opera about Michelangelo, but I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know how it could be framed. And so I wrote a whole bunch of letters to a bunch of different people, authors, philosophers, asking them for their thoughts about what created the idea of creativity, what facilitated that, where did it come from? And no one answered me, no one, except for one guy who was a columnist for a musical magazine called Keyboard Magazine, his name, well, his byline name was Fref. Connor Cochran was his real name, but Fref was his byline name. And he didn't write me back. He called me. He phoned me and he said, "Let's talk about this. Tell me about what's going on with you and everything." And I said, "Well, okay, here's the idea. I bought this book in a bookstore called it was something about the psychological history of Michelangelo, and it was roundly denigrated by the entire artistic community because it didn't look at him as an artist. It looked at him as a human being with a series of psychological problems. But for me, when I read it, I was going, this is something. This needs to be something on site. And because I'm in theater, I thought it has to be in theater. Well, one man show didn't work out because Michelangelo was an inveterate liar. And so I needed another character to help sort of fact check him. But then I couldn't find anyone else who could be as honest. So it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And finally, one night I woke up in the middle of in the night, and with a bolt right up in bed, I said, "It's got to be an opera, big, huge, mother blinking opera with lots of voices and lots of different viewpoints and everything." But I didn't know what it was about. So Connor said, at one point he said, "Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down 20 questions that you would ask Michelangelo if he were alive today." Sounded like an interesting exercise. So I didn't write down 20. I wrote down like 100 of them, but I whittled them down to 20, and I sent them off to Connor. And it wasn't for a couple of months before I heard back from him. And at that point, I thought, well, okay, he's busy writing and stuff like that, and he probably forgot all about me. But all of a sudden, one day, I got this big, thick envelope in the mail, and I opened it up, and it said, "Sorry that this took so long to get back to you, but things have been really crazy now." Now, let me back up just a little bit in time, because one of the columns that Connor wrote in that magazine, Keyboard Magazine, he was talking about an experience he was having where he felt like there was another voice answering questions for him. So he would write down questions with the right hand, switch the pencil to his left hand, and his left hand would just automatically write answers without any kind of input from him whatsoever. This is kind of what's going on with Jimmy's new book, the Master Teacher Within. So, and then there would be the answer. And a lot of times it would have nothing to do with what he knew at all, completely outside of his own information format. So the reason he asked me to write down those questions was because those were all the questions that he was putting to what he would call lefty, because left hand, would be questions about himself, things that he might know about already, but he knew very little about Michelangelo. So he thought, here's a great opportunity. Send me questions about Michelangelo, and let's see what Lefty has to say about that. So now I get this big, thick envelope, and with an apology letter in front, and then the questions with Lefty's answers. Well, I sat down and read these things, and I went, "Oh my God, I knew Michelangelo very well. I've been studying him for over a year. I'd read hundreds of books about him. I'd done research. I'd talked with Michelangelo scholars, some of the best in the world. And so I really knew Michelangelo. And I thought as though I was reading these answers from Michelangelo. Okay, so regardless of what the history is of that and what happened with that, because I had had this exposure, I then was prepared for what the idea of the course was. I had this friend on the island that I lived on up in Maine who had another friend. He said, I got this friend, she's into this thing called A Course in Miracles. I'm not interested in it, but here, you studied and you tell me what you want. You tell me what you think. Well, this friend was Vicky Poppy. And one day, yeah, you can see where this is going. One day, Vicky came up to the island to visit her friend Ted, and she brought a couple of friends with her, a guy by the name of James Twyman, and then also another guy by the name of David Farwell. And Ted, my friend Ted on the island, called up and said, you got to come over to my house right away. You got to meet this guy. He thought I was supposed to meet Jimmy. No, what happened was I got together with David, and we stayed up for like 48 hours straight without any break whatsoever, and just talking about this. And I was, because of my experience with Lefty, I was open to the idea of channeling. I was open to the idea of there being a voice outside of the experience of the ego. And so I was really willing, I was ready, willing, and able to accept the idea of what the Course was. So after David and Jimmy, and we hit it off too. That was very nice, but it was David that I was really attached to. And so as soon as they went back to Boston, I went into town and went to the local bookstore, and I said, I'm looking for a book by the name of A Course in Miracles. Do you have one? And he said, yeah, I think we do. It's buried. Hold on a second. And he went digging through some stacks in the bookstore, and he said, this thing's been sitting around here for a couple of years. I went, oh, really? No kidding. And so I was willing and able to get that book and buy it. And all of a sudden, the teacher-pupil relationship was solidified in that, because I started reading it and I started accepting it. And I said, and then I started going down to Boston as frequently as possible to be with David, and being there for him to, and he was none of this like reading the Course and reading it to me or anything like that. I would just ask him questions and he would answer to me. And therefore it wasn't his curriculum that I was getting. It was my own curriculum that I was getting by asking him questions and him responding in terms of the Course. And how
What year did you start the Course in Miracles? What time year did you get it?
95, I think, 94, 95.
Okay.
I think something like that, yeah. And then by hanging around with David, 79, yes, you're an old timer. But the idea that I was hanging around with David also helped me establish my relationship with James, and that's been going on forever as well. David left us in 98 or 99, I think. I guess there's all kind of whatever word that is, transition, whatever. I don't know what that is. I don't have a word for it. He's not physically here right now. He is right here, right now.
Body died.
Right here, right now. And I hear him all the time. David had an incredibly infectious laughter, and I hear him laughing all the time.
Wow.
Because we loved each other so much. Everyone thought David was openly gay. I'm marginally bisexual, but that had nothing to do with our relationship. Although everyone thought that we were lovers, we never were, except lovers in the spiritual sense. And I never, ever, ever lost that attachment to him. I never have yet still, because I know that was the holy relationship that taught me what the holy relationship in the Course was all about. So pupil, teacher, pupil, and now here I am, and here we all are, teachers of God ourselves. And we are open to that idea because of the idea that there is no space between then and now. There is no space between teacher and pupil, except that we accept those immediacies, that here, right now, we relax the rubber band and it comes back to the condition of pure, unadulterated spiritual love. So that's my story I've been wanting to tell about my pupil teacher relationship. And I want to teach that so that everyone that I can teach the idea that if I were not open to that, if I had not really prepared myself for what that was going to be like, this thing with David and me meeting at my friend's house on the island, it might have just been, oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah, nice meeting you. Go have a good trip back to Boston again. But I wasn't. I was completely prepared and open for it. And I know that was God's will. That was before I even knew what listening to the Holy Spirit was all about. So how do we facilitate that relationship? How do we make teacher, pupil, boom, go like that? That is by listening to the call, listening to Holy Spirit, by saying we are one because we have been brought together. Anybody else have any cool stories like that? Yes, dear. Yeah, Mary.
Veronica, I have two questions for you.
Mhm.
The first one is pretty simple, and that's just, my husband and I go to Five Islands, or we have property in Five Islands, Maine, just east of Bath. And I was curious to know where your island was or what it was called.
Peaks Island, part of the city of Portland.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah, it's about
And
a
then-
20-minute ferry ride out to the island.
Nice. And Portland's such a great town
Mhm.
to go get supplies and such,
Yes.
and not too far from Boston. So I'm picturing you now. That's neat. And how long were you there?
I lived there for 13 years.
Wow, very cool.
I was
Yeah.
working with a gentleman who had a one-man show. I was his stage manager, and we traveled all over the world doing that show. And because I was working with him, it made sense for me to move to the same island that he was living on.
What was the show?
It's called Out of the Eccentric, Exceptions to Gravity.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Well, my second question was, did you ever do the opera? Did you write it, or
Wow,
the opera?
Yeah, that's a sad story.
Oh, what is it?
Well, I was channeling it. That's the only way I could put it. Was channeling this opera, and it was just flowing out of my fingertips onto the computer, flowing. And then all of a sudden one day, I don't know, the voice that was telling me what to type stopped.
Wow.
I mean, I can pinpoint the actual place in the script, in the libretto, where it stopped. And I went, where'd it go?
Oh my
And
gosh.
I haven't touched it since.
Oh my gosh. It
Yeah.
is yet to be born.
Well, it's sort of half born.
Yeah.
Half born.
Wow. Very interesting. And
Yeah.
how long ago was that it stopped?
Would have been 2002, 2003. It sort of peeled off a little bit because I was getting busy with working with James, booking his tour, driving his bus, all that stuff. And but when I eventually came back to it again, it was like going right back in again. It was there, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, what happened? Where'd it go? The name of it is the opera is The Voice in My Hands.
Maybe you should change the title to The Unfinished Opera.
I don't want to fulfill that. I don't want to make that a reality. I think I was
Or
watching,
part one.
Yeah, there we go. I was watching something, I can't even remember what it was last night, about something about the creative act, and I went, you know what? I can do that again. It's nothing is missing I didn't have like a little lobotomy or something, or it's
Right.
still, it's the possibility is still there. I just need to go back in and find that place and pick it up and run with it again. And I
Yeah.
keep telling myself that's what I need to do, and I keep not doing it. And I don't know why that is. There was something, there was a point where I decided that the idea of writing the opera was an egotistical adventure. But the only
Oh.
reason I was doing it was because of ego. I didn't at the time, like I do now, see it as an opportunity to teach
Yeah.
and to teach not just one person, but a whole bunch of people, you
Yeah.
know, by putting it out there. So I just have to bring myself back to seeing myself as being able to do that again. That's all.
Cool.
Well, anyway, and does anybody else have any idea or any thoughts about the teaching pupil relationship that can work now here in this reality that we are creating right here, right now? Anybody?
I would like for folks to go around and talk briefly about their first encounter with the course and whoever brought it to them.
Yeah,
would have
who
been
was
the initial
who was
teacher.
your teacher? Yeah. All right, Judy, you were first. Who were your teacher?
Roger Marchand. And it was back in the very early days, 79, and he was connected with people in Tiburon that were, it was the nursery.
Right.
And I was learning to deal with anger, and he gave me the hard copy books, and we started going together. And that was my initiation, and that's when I met Stillwater, who sang beautiful. My first course I went to was with the Tiburon group, and when I went in, it was just, I felt like for the first time I was at home. I just felt at home. And we started discussing the course, and things would start getting, and his first name will come to me, Stillwater, would start playing and singing course stuff, and it would change the whole context. So I was initiated in the nursery with music, calming the ego in a course-related way. My relationship with Roger terminated, and I didn't go back there because I thought of it as his group. So I studied alone for a great number of years. And I'm so much happier being connected. And I became connected with a group in town. And we still meet every other Monday now. We 9 of us ladies, it's whittled down to, and they were the ones that introduced me to James's call in the morning. 2 of the ladies would go to James's conferences, and brought me back the path of the spiritual peacemaker that he signed for me, and they gave me the phone number. So that's how I got connected, and being joined, it definitely so much more fulfilling than doing this alone.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: with your initial contact with Roger, looking back on it now, does it seem preordained?
Oh, totally. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All of my life has been
It was
preordained.
inevitable. It was inevitable.
Oh, yes. I mean, I was a course person before I knew the course. Now I have tools for forgiveness. Now I know that any grievance I hold is an attack against love, which is an attack against God. So I'm much quicker to put the grievances aside. Had an interesting one this morning. My husband turned 82, and we're having our first gathering in 3.5 years, 4 years, musical gathering in the house. Well, I mean, he thinks buy some lovely beers and that's it. He has no idea of the clearing of the pretty dishes that have to be washed and prepared, and the food, blah, 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 blah. We borrowed an ice chest, and they had been stored outdoors, so it needed washing. And Later on, I commented about some singer in the Joni Mitchell honor that she received, that the singer did, Cyndi Lauper, and I said, she really, that was really well done. And he said, oh, thank you. And I said, well, he said, well, are you referring to how I cleaned the ice chest? I'm thinking, I said, yes, honey, thank you. It's like, and later I'm thinking, what the fuck, he's doing even less. And then I remember, that's a grievance, young lady. Well, old lady. That's a grievance, just let it go. At least this year I had the good sense to, someone's coming to clean in a little bit and help arrange chairs. So I had the good sense to do that. And he's 82, he doesn't have the energy. So it's his birthday party. But nonetheless, oh boy, did I have to catch myself. So
And
even though I've
but
been
you
a
did.
student since 79, I am still a student. Oh, I did, sure, I know, but you know, I long for that short time to be collapsed and that we're all, you know, in the rainbow that's just around Linda's head there and that screensaver. That's my story. I'm sticking with it.
And you should too.
Thank you.
Linda, tell us your first teacher-pupil relationship.
In regards to A Course in Miracles,
Yes.
I was thinking about it and I can't really remember. I'm a terrible historian and I'm thinking that I probably just picked up the books at St. Vinny's one day because I was attracted to them. And being back then I was impulsive and of course I got the books, but I never looked at them. Then I gave them away and I bought them several times in several versions. And I just kind of bumble through. It's like I just hear things there and there and follow. So I don't really have a real defined experience. It's kind of like just the way my life happens as it unfolds.
How did you find us?
James Twyman came to my church when he did that, when he had that big quilt that he was doing.
Where's your church?
In Eugene, Oregon. It was Unity of the Valley.
I was there. Do you remember the big white bus?
I don't remember the bus.
Yeah, I was I booked that tour.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
I was working with James at the time. Cool. All right.
That was the first time I saw him and I was so impressed with that project and him, because he feels the reason I like being around James is because I don't feel like he's above me or below me. He's at a similar level and it's like more like being at a playground and playing, working, and being the impulsive kind of being that I am, I'd rather play than work. And for me, it's like being the teacher and being the student it's a moment to moment thing. I mean, it's any moment and every moment you can either be a teacher or a student, and it's just whether or not you're being willing to be open-minded. And that's why I liked working with kids at church, because they have a different perception than I do, and we can learn from each other.
Right. Hence the last sentence of this thing. And thus he who was the learner becomes a teacher of God himself. The roles are completely interchangeable when the ego is let go of. Because the learner, the teacher always can learn more, always.
Yeah.
Now my question that comes to my ego is, what have I got to teach God? Huh?
Well, you don't, but you
I
have
thought
a
you
lot.
just said that then we become teachers of God.
Teachers of God.
Oh, I see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Got it? Okay.
I got it.
Okay, good. Carolyn, tell me about your first experience with the course. Your first contact with a teacher.
Our minister's wife at the Stittsville United Church was very much a part of a little spiritual growth group that we had, and we met. Things were difficult in my life at the time, but we were meeting, and it was somewhere around the end of 79 or the first couple of years of, I'm trying to remember exactly because we were doing a number of things, but I think she introduced it probably fall of 81 or summer of 81. And there was another 3 or 4 people and us, and she brought it and talked about it and said, you know, it would be a really good thing. It's just come out in print here in Canada, and it would be a really good thing to look at. I think it's pretty important. So we agreed to meet, and we ordered the book, each of us. And at the time it came out, it was three books, and in the dark blue cover. And I got them all, and we met for quite a long while, you know, a year or 2, and worked with it, with some other spiritual things we were doing. And the minister's wife had gone with me and my 2 little kids in 78 to Findhorn. So we were, you know, on a spiritual track. 81, late 80, early 81, I couldn't stay in the house with my husband. He had to leave, alcoholism, all that kind of, anyway, it doesn't matter. But the course and the little group was really important. And then a number of years later, we sort of finished meeting in 2 or 3 or so years, and others moved away. And my books sat in my bookcase for several months, and like years probably. I didn't get it out. And then a friend that I had met in early 90s was talking about the Course in Miracles and wanting to get the books. And I said, oh, I've got the books here. I'm not using them. I'll give them to you. I can't remember who I gave them to. And I never got them back because I gave them to her.
Mhm.
And that was okay. And I didn't think about them for quite a long while until a couple of years ago. And then I couldn't get them. But lo and behold, I asked in the library, and the librarian said, was this 2 years ago? I think somebody brought one of those in, just a minute. And this is what she got.
Uh-huh.
And it was given to me.
Volume 2.
So that's the manual for or the workbook for students. And I'm going through, and as I'm going through now, I notice I have put dates on the top corner. And this is my 2nd year to fully go through it, numbering each day. So this day last year was actually April the 2nd.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm going through it fresh again. And then I haven't been able to get a hold of the full course, but then I got this one. I ordered it from Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and it has everything in it,
Right. That's
probably some modifications.
That's called the sparkly version.
It's called what?
The sparkly version.
Okay, well, I have the sparkly version.
Because of the cover.
Okay, well, that's the one I have, and of course the teacher's manual is at the back.
Right.
And that's what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's come and gone in my life, and I'm glad that it's back again.
Well, that is that copy that you have there was published by Teddy Poppy, Vicky's husband, and it was meant to be. I mean, I didn't realize that there was someplace that was selling that version because it's meant to be given away. But however it comes about, that's okay.
Doesn't matter. It's and I knew it was after I started meeting with the Namaste group, and you know, when I first went, Teddy was there, and anyway, and then I heard about the manual and talking to Vicky about it and so on. I went ahead and ordered it.
Thank you for your support. Really appreciate it.
And this is a little aside step.
Mm-hmm.
But very interesting, on the 28th, I followed again, made the attempt to go into, somebody told me Amazon, Kindle at Amazon or something like that. Anyway, I went into amazon.ca because you said, I think I wrote and told you, thank you.
Right.
You said you arranged for it to be available in all locations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ordered the Kindle version. I haven't figured out how to download it yet, but I've got it because I have the receipt for free. And then I thought I'm going to order the paperback at the same time. So I ordered the paperback on the 28th from amazon.ca. It's $20-ish Canadian, 1913 or something Canadian.
This is Jimmy's new book, the Master Teacher
That's
Within.
right.
Right. Mhm.
Master Teacher Within, and I got it from amazon.ca. And it was 1913 plus tax,
Mhm.
free shipping until Friday.
Right.
So I went ahead and ordered it. I've got an account there that I hardly ever use. And then later that day, this is the 28th, or was it the morning of the 29th? Anyway, a receipt and an acknowledgement that I would have received the book by April 3rd or 4th. The 29th, I get an email from amazon.ca saying that Canada Post is having trouble, and the address that they put in the letter from Canada Post just had my first name, my town, and Canada. So I printed, that was the 29th. The 30th, I printed those letters out, went to the post office to see what they could do about this because I wasn't able to reach Amazon.
No, of course not.
Out of my mailbox, because I have a post office box, there's a notice about a parcel. So I went in, I said, I've got some stuff I want to go over with you, but can I get this first? And I handed her the letter. This is the 30th.
Mhm.
Okay. Ordered the 28th, told I wasn't on the tracking, wasn't working. 29th, I get this thing. It's my book with my right address.
Everything I ever worried about never
All the
happened.
post office identification, everything perfect on the package. And I said, I don't need to give you these. And I tore up the other sheets. And so to me, aha, there's an example of saying, oh, well, let it go and go check it out. It was there all the time, 2 days. So
There we go. Yeah.
miracles happen. That's a first.
Mary, it's your turn.
Okay. That's such a great story, Carolyn. Thank you. That was
it's beautiful.
beautiful. Right, right. So, okay, I was trying to remember, but the very first time I heard of A Course in Miracles was when I was reading many, many years ago, probably soon after it came out, Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And that book really rang true for me. And then I thought, ooh, Eckhart, how did he get so smart? You know, what's, you know, what, and then I noticed he's referring to this thing called A Course in Miracles. So I thought, okay, I'll check that out. And I happened to have a friend who had the audio tapes. This was, I don't know, probably, I don't know, late 90s or something. And so I tried to listen to the tapes and I just thought, nope, not for me, too Bible-y, gave them back to my friend. A few years later, I thought, you know, again, I'm reading more now, maybe Wayne Dyer's talking about it or somebody else. And okay, so I ordered the tapes myself, $240 worth of audio tapes that came to me. I took one tape out, I listened to it and I thought, too Bible-y. I sent it back. I got my money back. So that was that. And then I was in.
And when was this again, Mary?
I'd say sometime in the late 90s.
Okay.
Then I was in Half Price Books looking for Christmas gifts for family or friends. And this was Christmas of 2007. I saw 3 books on the shelf, all blue, Course in Miracles. One was a combined, one was just the text, and one was just the course, the teacher manual. And I just thought, Okay, that's that thing that I sent back in the tape form. It's on a shelf. I can afford it. I'll buy them and I'll put them on my shelf. That's it. They'll just sit on my shelf. And I bought them. And days later, by the end of December, Oprah Winfrey is on TV saying, holding up the blue book, saying, hey, everybody, Marianne Williamson's going to be starting A Course in Miracles on January 1st. Get ready, follow along, get your book. And I thought, what? That's my book. And coincidentally, my sister had been diagnosed with a death sentence cancer on December 20th. And I had gotten these, I had 2 copies, really. I had the combined edition and the workbook. So I gave her just the workbook. I kept the combined condition. And I said, Nance, I knew she had a few months to live. I said, let's do it together, which we did in 2008. And she died, I'm sure I told this before, on day, less than 50, which is, I am sustained by the love of God. It was so beautiful. And I've read it then. So then for the next 14 years, I read that every single day, did the lesson every single day to the best of my ability. Always in the back of my mind, I thought, if I'm going to do this course correctly, I've got to go on a 1-year sabbatical, where I can just do it the way they want you to do it. Never did it quite like that. Did it to the best of my ability for 14 years. And that's my story. And yeah.
So you had a series of teachers that came to you incrementally that slowly awakened you to what the course was, and you were able to accept that as a true pupil of God.
Yeah, after rejecting it very strongly
right,
a few
right.
times.
Yes.
That's
Wow.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm
Brenda.
totally sold.
You can hear me?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, my internet connection is weird.
Oh.
But my first introduction was in 2018, Lisa Natoli. And I think of, Carolyn was saying how things work out. I think of her, everything is perfect, all is well. And my journey has been, well, MS was my first teacher. That was 12 years ago. And I deal with pain. And today's lesson talked about pain and illness and stuff. And I think that's been my first and ongoing teacher. And I just believe that, well, funny, Baraka, you spoke of Michelangelo. My healthcare provider used Michelangelo's drawings to open up his practice of choreactology. And that's been a godsend to me. It's given me relief in so many ways. I'm walking with my walker, which I wasn't doing in 2011. I was on the floor in major pain.
Holy cow.
And I just believe that, and I've never read the course, just the workbook. I'm just starting to read the text and now the manual, and it's all coming together. And I just believe that there's much wonderful things ahead.
Cool. I remember when I got that book at that bookstore in Portland, and I started reading it, and I'm going, oh my God, it's this thick. How am I gonna, because I never read a book that thick before. So I started reading it and I couldn't put it down. And I was traveling a lot with Avner, the guy whose show I was doing, flying here, there, and everywhere. And a lot of times he would have to fly in a day or two in advance to do some press or something like that. And then I would fly later on to bring the show with me, to the props with me to set it up in the theater. And I would be reading this book on the airplane, and invariably someone sitting next to me had either heard of the course, had a copy of the course themselves, or how when you're sitting on an airplane and the person next to you is reading and you go, I wonder what that's about, and especially with a big thick book like that. And so we would ask, what's that book you're reading? Constantly, it would happen again and again and again. I would be in a restaurant talking to someone about the course, and someone sitting at the next table with, what are you talking about? Constantly I was being put in the position of pupil who was teacher. I had no idea that that's what I was doing. I had not read the manual yet. I didn't know what that was all about, the relationship between pupil and teacher. I didn't know about that. All I knew was that people kept asking me about this thing. And I kept going, I don't know, I'm just reading it myself, but here's what I found out so far. And by doing that, by constantly allowing the door to the store to be open, I was reaffirming my own beliefs, my own acceptance of the course, my own acceptance in it being a pathway to the love of God. I really didn't think there could be another pathway at the time when I was initially reading it. I said, this has got to be it. I mean, the whole world has got to know about this. But I now realize that no, it is one pathway, and it is the pathway that I have allowed myself to come in contact with. And by being that, I have allowed myself to open the doors to the storefront. There must be a better way. There must be
Well,
a better way.
Here's my accidental 2-day delivery.
There it is right there. And I've just confirmed with James that there will be a sequel to that one.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, I'm working my way through this one.
Okay. Well, it's like it's going to be a little while, but if you were at the were you at in the room meeting yesterday?
I don't remember. No,
Ja-
I don't remember.
James was at the beach, and he had another message from Master Teacher that he was reading.
Oh, I
And-
see. Okay.
And I texted him later. I said, do you want to add that to the book? We can do that. You know, we can always alter the manuscript that's being sold.
Mm.
And he said, no, I think I'll wait for the part 2. I said, okay, great, let's do it. Absolutely. So,
Virginia?
Virginia, I think she might have stepped away.
Oh, she did. Okay, I'm so curious because maybe Brenda, do you know how your mom got on?
Right, well, our stories are alike, and we've been on the journey together. No one else in my country, except for Carolyn Clark now,
Mhm.
that I've ever known. I've never known anyone in Canada to even know about A Course in Miracles.
Wow.
And I mean, we've gone to church all our lives, a Baptist church, and we've been spiritually attuned all our lives. And every decade brings something new, and this is the latest and the greatest so far.
Mm.
Isn't that lovely
Cool.
that you can
It's
do this
beautiful.
together? My
I
kids
love
that.
patiently listen to me, but I'm not sure that we're actually doing it, but they listen to my ramblings.
Mm.
And there are some of us in
My whole-
Canada.
Cool.
Yeah.
What, what, Brenda?
Well, I was just going to say, nobody in my immediate family is on board. They think it's insane. So I just be silent and shine. Yeah.
Yeah, my son like holds it against me
Oh,
in a
dear.
way. Yeah.
Really? Oh dear.
Well, he left about
Yeah.
almost 2 years ago. It
Yeah.
wants nothing to do with me or my husband.
He just
and-
he's not ready for it yet, that's all. And
Yeah,
maybe,
right.
and maybe the course isn't his lesson, isn't his path.
Maybe it
There's-
won't be his direction. Maybe it'll be a different interpretation.
Exactly,
Mhm.
yes.
It's funny because I was pretty sensitive to his, like he didn't like anything that was too like woo woo. So I would not push anything, or it was kind of a surprise to me really that he specifically mentioned it to a person, not to me directly, but to his godfather, that that he didn't want to have anything to do with Mom and her Course in Miracles.
Ah,
Well,
funny he should lump you together with the course. And well, anyway, it sounds whenever something comes to me is presented as that way, it usually means that there is a reason for that person to be afraid of it.
He's
No.
definitely, yeah, that's good, Barack. You're absolutely, I think that's how I see it too.
And
mm,
they all and that it's a call for love. That's all.
And I know too, because I rejected it so heartily for, 2 times,
Oh,
too
well.
Bible-y, not for
Oh.
me.
There we
Oh,
go.
okay.
All right. So it's probably very easy for you to associate or at least to sympathize with his feelings
Absolutely.
about this. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, we've gone way over. I'm so
That was
sorry.
lovely.
Yes.
I thank you, Judy. That was a great idea. And thank you for everybody sharing. I love that. It's wonderful to hear from
Thank you.
It's
everybody.
been important. It's reassuring, isn't it? Reinforcing whether, technically we're not supposed to need reinforcement. However,
Sure we are. That's what we're
Okay.
here for. We're here to reinforce each other. Absolutely.
oh, that's good because I find it reinforcing and I really appreciate you all and I bless you.
Me too. I'm very grateful.
All right, let's go with our closing affirmation here. What am I? Ready? I am
I'm
God's son,
God's son,
complete
complete
and
and
healed
healed and
and
whole,
whole, shining
shining in the reflection
of his love. In
In
me
me is
is
creation
creation
sanctified,
sanctified,
and guaranteed
guaranteed
eternal life. In
In
me is love
love
perfected, fear
fear
impossible,
impossible,
and joy
established
without opposite.
opposite.
I
I
am the holy home
of
of God himself. I am the
am
heaven
heaven
where his love
his
resides. I am his
I am
holy
the
sinlessness
sinlessness
itself, for in my
of my
purity
purity,
abides his
his
own.
his own.
And so it is. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Next week, whoops, oh shoot. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. There we go.
Barack,
What are the levels of teaching? Yes, dear.
Barack, before we go, I just want to mention that I put that what we just read, I put that in my phone, like calendar. So it comes up every day, which I love.
Ah.
And, I read it every day, just like that, right off my phone. Also,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So I just wanted to share that in case anybody else might
Thank
want to
you.
do that.
It's
One of
it's a-
these days I'll get a smartphone. Thank you so much. Our dear
you're
leader,
smart. You're
Baraka,
smart enough as it
And
is.
all my siblings. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all, my great teachers
Thank
in this.
you.
Really
Barack,
appreciate it.
you were going to say something though about next week.
What are the levels of teaching?
Okay.
That's part 3. All right.
Okay.
So and I'll be sending that out towards the end of next week. All right.
Thank you
April
so
the
much.
8th. Okay, doke.
Thank you very much. We love you all very much. Take care.
Same here. Thank you, everybody. Love you.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.